The moment the colossal shapes appeared in Earth's orbit, alarms screamed across every command center. Massive ships, their designs unlike anything humanity had seen, loomed silently against the black canvas of space. The Vrixari had arrived, an empire long whispered about in galactic circles for their ruthlessness and unmatched military might. Panic rippled through Earth's governments. The immediate assumption, invasion, but the Vrixari did not open fire. Instead, a message crackled through every communication channel, a calm but firm request for a ceasefire and a formal meeting on neutral ground. The entire world held its breath, torn between preparing for war and risking everything on fragile diplomacy. Earth's leaders convened urgently. The diplomats, hardened by decades of human conflict and tentative first contacts with other alien civilizations, debated their response. Many urged caution, expecting deception. The military strategists pushed for immediate defense readiness. But the lead diplomat, a man known for measured pragmatism, argued for the slim chance that this might be a genuine offer. History had taught humanity harsh lessons about powerful empires. Usually, when such forces appeared, smaller worlds were crushed, enslaved, or absorbed. Why then would the Vrixari seek parley instead of conquest? The question haunted every mind. Some feared this was a trap, a test of humanity's resolve before the true attack. Yet, curiosity whispered louder than fear for a small group. A scientist who had spent her life decoding alien signals saw a pattern behind Vrixari's approach. Not arrogance or hunger for conquest, but something else. A survival instinct masked behind the Empire's imposing facade. A silent cry for alliance rather than domination. As Earth prepared for the unknown, a meeting was arranged. A small delegation, a blend of diplomats, military advisors, and scientists, was to travel to a neutral space station far from both Earth and the Vrixari homeworlds. The goal? To negotiate terms, to understand the reasons behind this unprecedented offer. On the other side, the Vrixari leadership was not a faceless war council. Their rulers, shrouded in tradition and honor, had seen their empire pushed to the edge by a threat unlike any before. The Carves, a ravenous species known for obliterating entire civilizations to absorb their strength, had emerged from the shadows of the galaxy. The Vrixari, for all their power, feared extinction. It was this shared fear that drove the Vrixari to look beyond centuries of isolation and distrust. Earth, a young but tenacious world, had survived its own wars and chaos. Maybe humanity's unpredictable spirit and resilience could be an asset in the coming storm. Back on Earth, the news of the meeting sparked fierce debate. The military wanted to prepare for battle, assuming the worst. Politicians argued over alliances, treaties, and the possibility of becoming vassals rather than equals. Citizens, unaware of the true stakes, feared invasion or worse. Yet, somewhere beneath the tension, a thread of hope wove through the chaos. Hope that humanity might not just survive, but become a key player in the vast galactic chessboard. The delegation's journey was tense and silent, every step taken with the weight of an entire species' fate on their shoulders. They had no illusions. Trust would be hard-earned. When they finally met the Vrixari representatives on the cold, sterile neutral station, the atmosphere crackled with suspicion. No one wasted words. The Vrixari's leader spoke first, revealing the reason behind their arrival. The Carves were advancing relentlessly, a force that devoured everything in their path. The Vrixari Empire, once invincible, was now on the defensive. Their fleets were powerful but not infinite. They needed allies, unexpected ones. Humans listened, their minds racing. The threat was real. The stories of the Carves' brutality were terrifying. But here lay a chance to stand together, not as conquerors and conquered, but as partners against a common enemy. Discussions moved quickly, each side testing the other. Humans insisted on respect and independence. The Vrixari, though proud, recognized the value in human ingenuity and unpredictability. Diplomats hashed out terms. Scientists began exchanging data. Military advisors debated strategies. Amid the formality, a new respect began to form. Humans impressed the Vrixari with their capacity for rapid innovation and their refusal to submit under pressure. The Vrixari, in turn, shared glimpses of technology that seemed almost magical, offering humanity tools and weapons far beyond Earth's current capabilities. But it wasn't just technology that mattered. The Rixari were intrigued by human emotion, their capacity for loyalty, and the bonds formed even under dire circumstances. They saw in humans something that their own war-hardened culture lacked, a spark of unpredictable creativity. For humanity, the Alliance was a test of character. Could they rise to the challenge without losing themselves? Would they allow this powerful empire to dominate their future, or could they shape a new path side by side? In the end, fear gave way to cautious hope. The Alliance was forged not in trust but necessity. Both knew the real battle lay ahead. Earth was no longer alone. The galaxy was watching, and humanity's resilience was about to be tested like never before. The meeting on the neutral space station began with cold formality, but quickly revealed a precarious balance between hope and suspicion. Both Earth's delegation and the Rixari envoys circled each other warily, knowing that any misstep could shatter the fragile chance at alliance. The station's sterile halls echoed with terse exchanges and guarded glances as the two sides laid out their cards. The Rixari revealed what had driven them from isolation: the Karath, a species not merely bent on conquest, but on consumption. They didn't just conquer worlds. They devoured civilizations to absorb their knowledge, culture, and even biological strength. Entire empires had vanished without a trace, erased by the Karath's insatiable hunger. The Rixari had already lost many worlds. Their military might stretch thin, and they now faced extinction unless they adapted. Earth's representatives listened, absorbing the gravity of the threat. The Karath were an enemy unlike any humanity had ever faced. But humanity's survival instinct sparked. The humans offered what the Rixari could not: unpredictability. Years of battling internal strife and external threats had honed humans into masters of adaptation and innovation. Their guerrilla warfare tactics, unconventional thinking, and emotional tenacity could prove invaluable against an enemy so ruthless and relentless. The Rixari were skeptical but intrigued. Their empire was built on order, discipline, and overwhelming force. Humans, on the other hand, thrived in chaos and uncertainty. They introduced new ideas, unorthodox strategies that sometimes bordered on reckless, but often turned the tide in unexpected ways. After long hours of negotiation, the Rixari proposed an alliance, not one of domination or subjugation, but a partnership. They sought to combine their advanced technology and sheer firepower with humanity's adaptability and indomitable spirit. Humanity agreed, but made it clear this alliance would be one of equals. Earth would retain sovereignty and autonomy. This was unprecedented. A powerful empire recognizing humanity not as subjects, but as partners. Both sides recognized that the coming war required more than weapons. It required trust and cooperation. Teams from both sides began working together, exchanging knowledge and ideas. Humans were given access to Rixari technology, learning to operate ships and weapons far beyond their previous capabilities. In return, humans shared their insights on improvisation, emotional motivation, and the value of unpredictable tactics. The cultural divide was vast, but so was the potential. The Rixari were fascinated by human art, humor, and the way emotions could fuel determination. For them, war was about order and control. For humans, it was also about heart and spirit. Slowly, a new bond formed. Soldiers trained side by side. Scientists collaborated on weapons designed to counter the Karath's unique biology. Diplomats worked to weave together two very different cultures into a single front. Throughout this uneasy truce, both sides learned. Humans saw the galaxy as more complex than Earth had prepared them for. The Rixari began to appreciate the unexpected strengths of humanity, the stubborn refusal to give up, the willingness to sacrifice, and the ability to think beyond rigid structures. This was no mere alliance of convenience. It was the birth of something new, an interspecies cooperation forged in the shadow of annihilation. But even as cooperation deepened, distrust lingered. Old prejudices didn't vanish overnight. The Rixari questioned whether humans could be trusted in the heat of battle. Humans doubted whether the Rixari truly saw them as equals or merely useful tools. Despite the tension, the alliance held, because both understood the stakes were too high to fail. The Karath were coming, and when they arrived, neither species could stand alone. What started as a fragile truce grew into a partnership, where the strengths of both sides complemented each other. The Vrixari supplied advanced weapons and ships. Humans brought tactics no empire had faced before. Together, they prepared for the fight of their existence. The Vrixari, once isolationists, opened their world to humanity, and humans, once wary and divided, found new purpose among the stars. The unlikely alliance was no longer just a hope. It was humanity's best chance at survival. The first signs of the Karath invasion came without warning. Their massive fleets appeared like shadows blotting out stars, descending on Vrixari outposts with brutal efficiency. The galaxy's nightmare had arrived, and Earth's alliance with the Vrixari was tested almost immediately. The joint forces scrambled to respond. Vrixari warships, sleek and heavily armed, formed defensive lines, while human pilots and soldiers integrated into the ranks. Humans brought something new to the fight: unpredictability. Their hit-and-run attacks, ambushes, and willingness to improvise disrupted the Karath's otherwise relentless advance. The first skirmishes were chaotic and brutal. The Karath were merciless predators, their biology adapted to destroy entire fleets and consume technology. Conventional tactics failed, but human commanders saw opportunity in what others considered chaos. They exploited weak points in the Karath formations, used decoys, and lured enemies into traps. One particular battle, inside a dense nebula, became a turning point. The Karath's advanced sensors were blinded by the swirling gases. The Vrixari's precise technology faltered, leaving them vulnerable. Humans adapted quickly. They used small, fast ships to strike from unexpected angles, sabotaging enemy supply lines and forcing the Karath into a retreat. The Vrixari warriors, proud and disciplined, began to respect the humans' fighting spirit. What the Vrixari saw as reckless bravery, humans called calculated risk and sacrifice. Side by side, soldiers from both species endured relentless assaults, harsh conditions, and the constant threat of annihilation. Stories of heroism emerged. A small human squadron held a strategic outpost against overwhelming odds, buying critical time for reinforcements. A Vrixari commander, one skeptical of human methods, credited a human guerrilla leader with saving his fleet through daring tactics. Bonds formed in fire and blood, breaking down centuries of mistrust. But victory came at a cost. Entire worlds were lost and countless lives sacrificed. The Karath retreated only to regroup and return stronger. Both sides realized this was no quick war. It was a brutal campaign of endurance. Yet the alliance proved its worth. The combination of Vrixari firepower and human adaptability halted what seemed like an unstoppable force. The galaxy began to whisper of Earth's unexpected role, not as a victim or pawn, but as a vital force in the defense against annihilation. The fighting forged unity. Humans and Vrixari learned from each other, growing stronger together. Their joint victories were not just military but symbolic, a declaration that resilience and creativity could stand against overwhelming odds. As the battle raged on, one truth became clear. The strength of the alliance was more than technology or numbers. It was the spirit, human spirit, refusing to yield, redefining what it meant to fight and survive. The war against the Karath was far from over, but the tide had turned. Earth was no longer a backwater world. It was a beacon of hope and defiance, proving that even the most unlikely alliance could change the course of history. The dust of battle settled, but the war's shadow lingered. Earth and the Vrixari turned from fighting for survival to rebuilding what the Karath had shattered. Across shattered worlds and broken fleets, a new era began, a partnership no one had expected but all now depended on. Earth cities, battered but unbroken, became hubs of innovation and cooperation. Vrixari technology merged with human ingenuity, accelerating advancements in medicine, energy, and defense. Scientists from both worlds worked side by side, pushing the boundaries of what either species had imagined possible. Diplomatic ties deepened. Earth secured a seat in the Galactic Council, no longer an isolated planet, but a respected member shaping interstellar policy. The alliance reshaped the galaxy's balance of power, proof that unity could rise from suspicion and fear. Humanity's reputation spread far and wide. Stories of their courage and resilience traveled on starships and across alien worlds. They were no longer seen as primitive or insignificant, but as unpredictable, fierce, and valuable allies. Where others saw chaos, the galaxy now saw a source of strength. The alliance grew beyond politics and war. Cultural exchanges flourished. Vrixari scholars studied human art and music, while humans learned the ancient traditions of their new allies. Friendships blossomed across species, breaking down the barriers that once seemed insurmountable. But beneath the progress lay a solemn truth. The Carves threat remained. They lurked at the galaxy's edge, a reminder that peace was fragile and vigilance eternal. Earth and the Vrixari prepared not just to defend themselves, but to lead a coalition against future invasions. For humanity, the alliance marked a transformation. They began as underdogs, feared, underestimated, and isolated. Now they stood among the stars as equals, their resilience and spirit having carved a place in the galaxy's great story. The future was uncertain, but the lesson was clear. Strength was not only in power or technology, but in unity, adaptability, and the will to survive against impossible odds. Humanity's unlikely alliance with the Vrixari was proof that even the most improbable bonds could change the fate of worlds. In this vast universe, Earth had found its voice, and with it, a new destiny.